need, which is basically achieving the earth sync and getting your plasma body synchronized with the planetary plasma body. So this is a great opportunity right now to basically be able to catch this wave, to synchronize yourself even more with the rhythms of this planet. And this is also getting amplified this year because it's not just the annual peak that we have each year, but it's actually the highest Nomiya wave cycle, the one with the strongest frequency that we had in the last 8 years. It's actually also going in the octant cycles, and we are at the end of a second octant cycle. So it's kind of like we are getting a download of frequencies from even higher and higher dimensions. And that's actually going even beyond the dimensional scale, and it's allowing us to get, even let's say if we joined in the middle of this octant cycle, we are actually getting the frequencies from all of the previous 8 years and even further than that. So it's a great opportunity to kind of tune in our space and see how we actually feel also physically. That's why I kind of wanted to bring up this topic of the diet and how it's also affecting our energetics. I do sense that it's very important, especially with this Nomiya wave cycle coming up, and we actually find ourselves in this circumstance where actually we start to sense more and more things happening in our physical bodies. At first, when you get your plasma body activated, you might be like, okay, well, I kind of sense something in my body, but I don't exactly fully feel like it's a part of myself. That's the feeling you might have at first, especially if you weren't born with your plasma body activated. But if you are, you kind of feel the changes happening all the time. But for those who basically start to kind of get different sensations in their bodies, especially during this period, and I've been experiencing many people getting ill these days, kind of having these flu-like symptoms. Someone from my family also had such issue, and I kind of looked into it, and basically it wasn't anything that was caught from the chemtrails or whatever they are spraying in the air these days. But actually it was coming from the overload of the physical body from this wave. Some of us as natural frequency pillars, we are actually experiencing more and more of these frequencies being downloaded, as I said before, from the plasma body template to our atomic structure. And if they reach a certain critical mass of quantum, they begin the clearing process. And this gets directly to our DNA template, to our central nervous system, to the organs and all other stuff that are in our physical body, the bloodstream itself. So I would say when this kind of thing, like you might sense that there is just like a different heartbeat or something like that, it might be also caused by this. So I would advise everybody to be quite cautious of their bodies in this period, in context of seeing what our bodies may need energetically and physically as well, because along with the plasma bodies, the plasma frequencies being transmitted to our physical bodies, we are experiencing the change in our metabolic rhythms, the change in what we feel like we want to eat, how we feel with our sleeping cycles as well, actually. So it's a great shift, and the sensations we might be getting, or that we actually already started getting during this very interesting cycle, they might be a little bit different for everyone because everyone has a different coding in their template. But basically it works in a very similar way, that it's basically clearing the areas that may still be holding a little bit of the Metatronic coding, and it's clearing what it's supposed to. So there's no reason to panic about it or be afraid about what this wave might do to you. It's actually a matter of a free will choice. Our higher selves already decided whether we want to take this wave or not. So there is no need to get overstressed about it at the same time. So when we talk about the Krystic lifestyle, and something that I refer to as the energetic hygiene, we've got the physical hygiene, so like just taking a shower every day, brushing your teeth, basic things like that. We also have something that I would refer to as the energetic hygiene, and unfortunately, not many people on this planet actively practice that. While it actually is, I would say, as essential as taking a shower in the morning. Basically, when I talk about the energetic hygiene, what I mean by that is looking after our personal biofields. It's very simple. Clearing anything that doesn't belong in there, checking if there are no attachments from other beings, from other people, if we were interacting with others on a daily basis, did they transmit anything to us that we wouldn't like? These are the basic questions that we should be asking ourselves, especially these days, because as I said many times on my previous episodes, we are in the beginning of a grand clearing cycle that is going to take place for next about 900 years. Even though I would say that the most intense phase is going to occur within next 200 years. So this is a really important time, because what the clearing cycle implies is that everything happens faster. So all of the karmic imprints that you might have caught from other people, they are going to start manifesting quicker than in normal circumstances. But at the same time, you can clear them much more quicker. So there are also good sides to that. Actually, it's wonderful news that we are in this clearing cycle. Other things that I mean by energetic hygiene, as I said, getting rid of any kind of projections, things that may have been transmitted by other people, removing any kind of filters. If we just wake up and suddenly we are just annoyed without any reason, that's immediately suggesting that something happened either during the dream state or something that was in your template, it kind of got out pictured, because it doesn't necessarily have to be caught the other day and then this template is kind of out picturing. It might be actually along with the clearing cycle, we go through the DNA activations that we might not be even consciously aware of. And there will just come one day when you wake up and some imprint from your very, very distant past, maybe even from your ancestral imprint, is coming out, and it requires the conscious work. So that's one of the things that I would like to kind of make you ponder about. That actually this energetic hygiene, working in your space, working with your field, with your own energy, it's extremely important. Because if you want to have a successful life, if you want to have a good day in general, it's good to do this small morning routine, which actually involves making sure that what doesn't belong in your fields gets removed. How it gets removed, how do you remove that? Probably I will make a different episode about it. I've been talking about the contracts and how to remove such things with Caroline yesterday. So if anybody's interested to look into contracts breaking, clearing any kind of spells and curses, I would refer to that show. But in general, when we talk about the physical well-being, it basically implies a healthy and functional energetic system. So when we think about, we can actually think about it this way. If our spirit is healthy, if our spirit is great, our physical body will be great too. But both of these aspects need to be integrated. It's about working both from the physical and the energetic space. there are right now many movements talking about the importance of the diet, like you should be vegan, or maybe you should be fruitarian, or maybe you should go on the keto diet. I will be honest and I will say that I'm vegan, but I don't support any of these diets because I know that it's a very individual matter. So when we talk about one universal diet for everybody, it just doesn't work this way. And this is something for us to understand, that everybody is different. And if you feel like eating meat, you can. Just see how your body feels about it. I will talk about it more in the minute, or actually I can talk about it now. So just to kind of answer that question that may be coming to your mind, like, okay, so what should I eat and what doesn't depend on? So is there a universal diet for everyone? The answer is simple: no, there is not. Each person has a different DNA template, so it is actually a very individual matter what you should eat and how different types of foods may influence you. When it comes to the allergic reactions, these are actually mutations in our DNA template. And allergy is usually coming from something, from a certain imprint that is in the DNA. And certain chemicals that your body might not be processing, but again, it is coming from a certain mutation, because actually our bodies are elemental manufacturers. So we should be able to create our own atoms, not take them from the environment. I was given a small list when we talk about, okay, what kind of foods are good, which ones are more metatronic. I will just kind of explain the difference before I kind of get into which ones are metatronic, which ones hold more Krystic quantum. So I was talking a little bit about the living light quotient, what that actually is, where we've got the Shalaya, living light atoms of light, and we've got the Shona, dead light fields. Basically, the Shalaya, living light, can phase. That means that it's sparking and it's generating more and more quantum. So actually it has the ability to replicate itself. It doesn't need any external factors to be able to create more and more replicas of itself. The Shona light, the dead light, cannot do that. It must basically attach to other atoms in order to keep growing and actually sustaining itself. Because without the phasing and without the sparking, it's going to die. And the Shona dead light fields are basically the reversed elemental fields that are on this planet. The reason why everything on this planet is dying is because of the dead light fields. We also contain them in ourselves, and that's why our bodies are not eternal. Basically, we contain a certain amount of the living light and a certain amount of the dead light. And that's also determining how much of the metatronic code we have in our bodies. And paradoxically, it's also determining what kind of diet suits us the most. Because, and maybe I will get to that in a minute, but just kind of keep that information in mind. So basically, when we look at it this way, we've got the living light and the dead light in our bodies. So it kind of makes our anatomy a little bit bipolar. Quite a lot, actually. It's as if we literally have two elemental forces in our body. And there are actually names for them. We've got something called the Jari, which is the organic spirit-body quantum. And this organic spirit-body quantum, it should contain our atoms, actually should be 100% Jari, because the Jari is made of living light units. While the Jarosh, which is the trapped spirit-body quantum, the reversed one, is basically the one which is contained of the dead light fields. And this incredibly malicious, evil process that takes place in our bodies is basically the fact that whenever we breathe, we create sparks that are basically kind of getting split into something called prana and mana, and they go to different chambers of our light and spirit bodies. And by breathing, when we inhale, we basically get a backflow. I mean, we should get a backflow return from the source. And when we exhale, we send an outflow wave. And with each inhale and exhale, the breathing cycles should be manufacturing atoms in our body. But this process has been incredibly reversed, where we basically don't really manufacture living light atoms anymore, but we kind of manufacture the Shona dead light fields. We manifest a part of this and a part of that, so it's not like we only create the Shona fields, but it's very much twisted. And now, depending on the abilities of our template, we might produce more or less of the living light. It's very individual, but each one of us carries a part of this mutation. That's why we are still on this planet and we cannot quite directly get out of it. So these two aspects of ourself, the Jari, the organic spirit body quantum, and the Jarosh, which is this part of the spirit body quantum that progressively got twisted, actually since the moment of the fetal integration, these two aspects fight against each other in our bodies. And they are causing things like addictions, drug addictions, alcohol, or even food addictions. They are also distorting the way we eat, where sometimes people only have fast food, where they are pretty much dominated by the Jarosh force. And it's also causing the emotional imbalance as well. It's good to realize, if we think about it this way, whenever you take a breath, you create, you materialize,
resist the
atoms.
urge to run.
And later on, these elemental atoms, they come to your body. And normally, if we were working in a proper way with the elemental force in our bodies, if these structures weren't distorted, with each breath, we would be able to bring all of the atoms to our body, all of the elementals that we need at the moment. And they would be able to replenish our body with new energies. We would get all the vitamins that we need and all of the chemicals in our body, all of the hormones that the glands are producing. All of them would actually have a totally different proportions that they have right now. And this would allow us for much better emotional balance. But what happens right now, that because of this distorted chemical balance that is in our elemental body, it basically overwhelms our mental body structures. Our emotions and chemicals basically run us around, causing distortions and imbalances in our behavior. And that is because of these reversed elemental fields that distort the production of the chemicals in the physical body. And that is later distorting our metabolic rhythms, and it's not allowing us for living in an organic way, if we put it this way. So this didn't only happen to human beings, but it also happened to other life forms on this planet, such as plants, animals. Actually, it even happened to singular atoms on this planet. It happened to all of the elementals. They started to lose their consciousness to a degree, or more like their consciousness got twisted. So actually, whenever we eat, we are eating, let's say, you're vegetarian and you're eating vegetables and fruit that already carry this mutation. So whenever you eat, you basically maintain that mutation in your body. But at the same time, you have to do that because your body is not able to basically sustain itself without it. So there's not really a way out of it right now. It can only be done by progressively healing the life field and ourselves from this mutation. And this is what's going to start happening, and it already does. It's going to start happening over this clearing cycle. So it's not like we suddenly have to become Praetorians. Actually, no way. I will speak in a moment about this whole Praetorian thing and how ridiculous it is to do it these days. But we can kind of put a few of certain types of vegetables into Metatronic and Krystic categories, because some of the foods on this planet, they started to carry more and more of these Metatronic distortions, just like some humans. They just got really, really twisted with their Jarosh force. While there are still some vegetables that don't hold a lot of this mutation. And it doesn't mean they are completely clean, but to a certain degree, they can heal us. And one thing to be aware of it once I give that list. I was given a certain list of foods that are basically more Metatronic. I was looking mostly at the vegetables and fruit because meat is pretty much Metatronic by itself. But it doesn't mean you have to stop eating these Metatronic foods, because the difference is that, let's say garlic. Garlic is extremely Metatronic. It's literally like a vampire force. But it's good to eat it when you're sick, or when you feel like you need to speed up your immune system. Because let's say once you have garlic or onion, it starts to kill anything in your body that has lower frequency than the garlic itself or the onion. So let's say if you have a certain bacteria, and that's why garlic is recommended when you're ill, it's going to kill any kind of bacteria or a virus, even though I quite don't believe that viruses exist. But anyways, it's gonna kill anything in your body that has lower frequency than it, because it's literally like a vampire sucker, but it can suck only from what has a lower frequency. So it's going to kill any kind of bacteria. So it's good to have actually this balance where you're having a certain amount of the Krystic foods, but if you feel like you need to ground yourself, or you need to kind of speed up your immune system, it's okay to have some of the Metatronic foods. It's about having a certain combination, a balanced one. So maybe I'm going to start with Krystic foods first. And as I said, I listed mostly vegetables and fruit, because when it comes to meat, especially right now with the way the meat is produced with all of these antibiotics given to animals, I wouldn't endorse that. But as I said, it's always a matter of the personal choice, and some of you may still feel like you guys need some meat because you're still holding certain distortions. But once you raise your frequencies to a certain degree, you might feel like it's time to become vegetarian, for example. Okay, so when it comes to the Krystic foods, the first one is the pumpkin. Parsley is also very high frequency. All of the green vegetables, like spinach, cabbage, cucumber, avocado, greens are the best when it comes to the frequencies. They hold the most of the Krystic quantum out of all the vegetables. So if you feel like you need to eat something but you don't want to ground yourself too much, it's good to have some greens, because they will give you some energy, but they won't ground you so much. Also, we've got, when it comes to the Krystic ones, we've got the cauliflower. Beetroot is also a really good one. Some of the mushrooms are also quite Krystic, but when it comes to the mushrooms, I was surprised myself. I was just writing down this list as I was getting this information from the stations of my higher self, and one of my guardians was like, hey, but you know you have to ask the mushroom for a permission to eat it. I'm like, okay, what does it exactly mean? So the answer from my guardian was like this. Basically, mushrooms. You can kind of identify them as living beings, as a certain type of a plant that is a guardian of the forest. All right? And the mushrooms pick up a lot of the memory matrix of the forest. So actually collecting mushrooms on the first place, it's as if you were taking some of the fruits that the forest has produced. And second of all, they actually think they have their consciousness, and they might get a little bit sad once you collect them, unless they actually decide to do so. So if you're one of the mushroom collectors, kind of try to ask them for permission first before you collect them, and then say thank you and show some gratitude once you're eating them, because they are really high consciousness. They know a lot of things. They know everything about the forest they grow in, and they are extremely high consciousness. I was surprised myself, but they hold a lot of frequency. That's why mushrooms, in context of eating them, they are very good for us, but it's also good to respect their free will at this point. Other Krystic foods that I listed, I'm kind of going to the fruits here. Kiwi is also good. Mango, melon, watermelon. These water fruits are basically very good, and lemon as well, orange, grapefruit. These are very, very Krystic and very high frequency fruit. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Metatronic ones. And as I said, it doesn't mean you have to stop eating them. Actually, you should keep eating them. But for example, make a combination where you're going to have some pumpkin, some greens, and you will add some onion. So it basically removes any kind of thing in your body that may be keeping you on a lower frequency. So some of the Metatronic foods include, as I said before, garlic, onion, tomatoes, potatoes, of course, all of the foods containing sugar, especially the artificial one, they are Metatronic, corn, chili is very Metatronic, carrot, radish, pineapple is also quite Metatronic, but that's because there's been some things done to the pineapple where it got distorted. And when it comes to apples, the red ones are Metatronic, the greens are more Krystic. So that's basically like a list that I was given. And it's good to realize that actually many of the plants, like fruits, vegetables that we are eating these days, they don't even come from here. For example, I know for sure that tomatoes are from some other planet. I think the same case was also with potatoes. Pumpkin, I do sense that it was growing somewhere else as well. So there's been a lot of different vegetables brought over here when this planet was kind of in state of its regeneration, and basically many different race lines would be coming and seeding their own plants here, animals. So that was kind of the moment when these foods came to place. And at first they were just growing and looking really pretty, but then we had to start eating, so we started eating these plants. Okay. So to kind of just summarize that part, when it comes to being vegan, vegetarian, meat diet, keto, or whatever, that's always a personal choice. The question that may appear, when can I become vegan? When you get rid of certain portions of the Metatronic code in you. Because the thing is that if, let's say, you are eating pretty much everything, and then one day you just become vegan without any kind of preparation for it, well, it's better to become vegetarian. But if you suddenly become vegan, your anatomy, without any, especially actually if you didn't do any energetic work on yourself before, your body may become too light, and that's putting you in danger of actually aligning with the Metatronic spiral. And that's something you would like to avoid. Because if you're getting too ungrounded, you're getting too light, you're just too much somewhere else, and still you kind of have this responsibility to be in this body. So you need to take a good care of it. And this sudden transition from the meat diet to fruitarian or vegan, it could be dangerous because it's going to cause very sudden imbalances to your DNA template. If you suddenly want to become vegan, just take it easy. First, stop eating meat, then quit some dairy, then stop eating eggs, and just go progressively once you reach that goal. But your body needs to adjust. It's about introducing very progressive changes so your template doesn't get shocked. If you've done already quite a lot of clearing on yourself, if you've been protecting your template, clearing the Metatronic code, any kind of distortions, you may feel like there are different things that you start to like, different things that you feel attracted to eat. And that's okay, and that's actually pretty much normal. So you can start kind of seeing what resonates with you more. Because basically, if you're wondering how can I know what is the best diet for you? I would say it this way. Just kind of close your eyes. And what would be the first thing that you would like to eat? But not thinking like what I desire to eat, like something very unhealthy, but more like what my body would benefit from. And the answer might show up, and you might actually see that it might be something completely different than what you usually eat. So it's worth trying to see what kind of foods you start to resonate with more. Certain types of food, basically, they change as the body is changing. Personally, I was a vegetarian ever since I was 5 years old, kind of because of my parents also becoming vegetarian. There was a certain point when I decided to become vegan, but I wasn't quite ready for it, and I didn't feel good after that. But for about, I don't even know how long, I think it's gonna be already almost 6 months. Yeah, it's gonna be 6 months. I became vegan, and I feel good about it. And right now, if I would have any kind of dairy, it's gonna grant me too much. It's gonna make my third eye vision a little bit chaotic. And generally, I'm not going to feel good. I will feel like I'm kind of stuck in this body. But everybody is going through a certain transition period. For me, the transition period was a challenge to a degree because my mind started to see a few realities at once when I quitted dairy. So I started seeing myself here, myself in 4D, myself in 5D, and I think in 6D. So it was like I was experiencing a few movies at once, you could say. So I needed a little bit of time to adjust, but eventually it felt like it's a good choice for me. But as I said, everyone needs to feel good in their own comfort zone. So it's important not to push anything on yourself and just really take it easy. When it comes to the amount of meals, just to kind of there's this, it's actually said by the doctors and the scientists that you should have 5 meals per day. I don't exactly agree with that. I would say that 3 or 2 is enough, but again, I'm leaving it to everybody's personal choice. Also, when it comes to the metabolic rhythms and kind of like, okay, why is someone burning calories faster than I am, you may think. So that's actually depending on the magnetic and electric relationships in our body. When someone is having more of the E-ray magnetic energy, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a woman, it can be also a man. If you're having a dominant magnetic energy in your body, you're gonna need more food, because you're going to digest quicker. Your metabolic rhythms will be much quicker. But if you're having dominant money, electric energy, you need less food because your metabolic rhythms are slower. So kind of see for yourself how quickly that process is taking place, because that will also kind of help you adjust like what kind of meals you should have and how often. But again, as I said, as we are kind of going through these different changes in our body, and that's why I decided to talk about it when it comes to this Nomiya wave cycle, it's causing shifts in our physical bodies. So that means it's also shifting our biochemicals. And the frequency accretion, which influences our physical body, it also may affect the way we feel with eating. So if you have these days where you don't feel hungry at all, or suddenly you just want to eat everything from the fridge, take it easy, because there might be some things that you are going through, that you might have a couple of days where you just feel like going on a detox, but then certain things are going to shift, and suddenly you might feel like you want to eat something completely different than you used to. So this is just kind of like a small advice for everybody. It's important to tune in with it, especially for those who want to achieve the atomic transfiguration. You need to prepare your body for this. Once we transition to median Earth, we won't be really eating, right? So first of all, we can enjoy it as long as we can. And we also need to adjust our anatomies properly. So it's about making these progressive shifts that are going to take place. But as I was talking about these Metatronic foods and the Krystic ones, and as I said, every food, just like our anatomy, they all carry a certain level of a mutation. But actually purifying your food is very much possible. So just like a quick advice. First of all, and this is like purely 3D, but I do feel that it's very important. The thing is that the best thing is when you make your own food by yourself, or let's say when a certain family member is making it for you, but you don't get it from the restaurant, you don't order it to your house. Why is that? When you are cooking, you are touching the vegetables, you are basically putting your energy into creating something. So this way you put your encryption, you create a certain intention that I want to create this meal for my family, I want them to enjoy it, I want them to feel good after it. That's already a certain intention that you're setting into it. You spread your encryption to the food that you make directly, and it can basically enhance its quality and its frequency. And this way you give this meal a certain intention, and the energy is always following the intention. So this is something that I think is quite important to be aware of. It's okay to go to a restaurant from time to time, but in general, especially like you're growing your own food in the garden, then you're just bringing it to the kitchen, making it yourself, washing it, you're already changing the frequency of these vegetables. Especially if you show them gratitude, if you thank them for giving you this gift, there is already the shift that is taking place. So even when you sit at the family table, just kind of expressing the gratitude. Vegetables hold consciousness, especially the ones that are growing in the ground, because once you're collecting, let's say like apple from the tree, you're kind of just collecting a fruit. But once you're picking up a carrot from the ground or a potato, they are conscious, they are aware, and it would be good to say thank you at least, because it must have been quite painful for them when they were taken away from the ground. the carrot has a face, the carrot has a soul. And now the thing is that this you can see that each vegetable actually has also, and not just vegetable, but also fruits and all other types of food, meat as well, they hold a certain level of the spirit quantum. And if you think about it this way, you're just eating the spirit quantum and DNA of other life forms. And as much as you cannot do much about it with the DNA, you can release the spirit quantum. And the way you can do this, you can basically use, there's this code called the Aluria Rashatan. I'm going to post it on my profile, on my Facebook profile page for anyone that would like to access it. The Aluria Rashatan is basically, it's called the feel good code, and it's allowing you to purify the water if you send like let's say the encryption of this code towards the water, and you can clear it, but you can also send it to the food, and it's going to already cause some shift. And if you intend for the spirit quantum to be released from these foods, this code is going to do that. So this way you are assisting other life forms by releasing their spirit. You're not siphoning it to your body, you're just releasing it. And at the same time, it's also beneficial for you. There's also the other method that I would actually recommend even more, and I would say that it has 3 steps. You basically freeze, melt, and vaporize. And this is also helping with releasing any kind of toxins. As you probably know, the vegetables that we get from the store are not always so good, even when they are called organic. So there's not always everything that we can do about it unless you live on a farm and you're growing your own foods. Anyways, you can always use, and I'm just kind of going to give a quick instruction for that. You're using the energy of the pillars, as I've been many times instructing, because it's just like, it's the quickest technique in the world when it comes to the plasmas, but you can do everything with it. You can close portals, but you can also clear the food with it. So on your right, you're having the blue pillar of frequency, which is the ice plasma, the blue one. And on the left, you're having the pink one, which is the fire plasma. And once you connect them together, they basically start to become a violet vapor. So at first, you just attract only the blue pillar. You just kind of bring it in to that spot between chakra 3 and 4 called the heart of Ephema. And you're just spreading the frequency from that pillar directly to the food. And you can visualize that actually you freeze it. It becomes frozen with this blue plasma, the blue ice plasma. Just kind of wait for a moment, let it freeze. And just to kind of remind everybody, when the water gets frozen, its memory matrix gets resetted. It's basically going through a reset. So if you do that with the foods energetically, also all of that memory matrix will get cleared out, so you won't catch any kind of karmic imprints from the environment. Then you're bringing the pink pillar, you just bring it in, breathe it in, and you spread the pink plasma frequency, the pink fire, again to the food. And you can see that it starts to melt, and it's basically melting any kind of distortions that the plants may be carrying. And my guardians are saying also dark flower distortions. Okay. Well, it turns out that some of the foods may also be carrying the black goo. Doesn't surprise me. Okay. And then once this is done, basically the food has been melted, all of these inorganic frequencies, and then you just bring these 2 pillars together. You visualize that they are turning violet, and you just send that frequency on your plate or whatever you're cooking. And that's basically starting to vaporize any kind of reversals that are in the food. And when I started doing this, it's not like that I'm doing it every day. Oh, I really have to start doing it again. But when I did, it started to, I kind of felt like the food has more taste, if that makes sense. Like that eating it feels much clearer for the body. So especially I would recommend it to everybody that is kind of still struggling with some template issues, because you won't have to consume so much of the metatronic reversals that are in the foods, because whether you want it or not, you have to eat, right? Okay. So I'm gonna try to get through the rest of the questions briefly. Just a little bit about the exercising. Is it important? I would say that it is. When it comes to the exercising, there are people who do that a lot. There are some who don't feel like it at all. So again, it's kind of like if we come back to the topic of the Jari and the Jarosh, these kind of two forces in our body. So to give you more context on it, the way it works, our bodies, as I said, with each breath, they produce atoms, but unfortunately twisted atoms because of the mutation. So when you're exercising and your breath gets faster and faster and faster, you start to make more and more breaths and more sparks, and then these sparks get twisted and you've got more and more twisted atoms in your anatomy. So that's kind of happening when you exercise. So if some people, well, including myself, are having resistance to exercise, that's kind of where it's coming from. But as we progressively heal that mutation, we shouldn't worry so much about it. When it comes to these popular yoga movements, I would say that the yoga movements are actually very beneficial to the body, especially if you're kind of feeling like the energy in your meridians gets stuck and you're having problems with energy circulation in the body. The yoga movements are actually very good as long as they don't directly interfere with the light body anatomy. Especially if you're having metatronic reversals in your template. So that means if there are some yoga postures that include giving some worship to some gods from the Hindu religion or things like that, or if there is this Kundalini yoga, this specific type of yoga just doesn't resonate with me, since I know there are a lot of fake Kundalini activations that may be triggered, and the energy of the Kundalini, which is like at the base of the spine in the tailbone, it can get very easily reversed. It's very sensitive actually. So it's good to activate it, but sometimes it's good to wait for it until it gets activated. Otherwise, it may easily get twisted and it may cause more harm than good. So this is just for everybody to be aware of. And one more thing that I would like to just kind of so you could pay attention to that. Whenever you're doing physical exercises, they must be connected with conscious breathing. Because as I said, breathing manufactures elementals that later create chemicals in our body. So whenever you're doing some kind of stretching exercises, Pilates, yoga, there must be a certain type of breathing circulation that you're applying. Otherwise, it might get very twisted and chaotic. So that's very important. When it comes to the vitamins, like should I take them, should I not take them? I will kind of present my viewpoint on it. So basically, the vitamin supplements are not needed as long as our body, as long as actually we provide it through the foods, through the organic foods, and actually clearing the foods in the way that I presented it, freeze, melt, and then vaporize. It's actually helping to remove this metatronic layer that is sometimes blocking certain vitamins to be accepted into the body. And actually our bodies should be producing vitamins by itself. That's just like a fact that I would like to share. It used to be the organic function of our bodies. But in the current circumstances, you should take the supplements only if your vitamin levels get too low. So let's say if you're having very low vitamin D levels and it's winter and you live in a country where there isn't much sun, then yeah, you should take some vitamin D supplements because you might benefit from it. But as I said, it's a very individual matter. The next thing that I would like to just briefly get through, I think I'm just gonna keep talking about the translation duct system and maybe leave it for the next time. The question is, how did we sustain our eternal life bodies in the past? And the answer is that we did it through the process called the solar symbiosis. So the solar symbiosis process, which was actually performed through something called the celestial breathing, which is this original way of manufacturing our atoms in an organic way, where our bodies produce 144 elementals to our body. It was performed through this type of breathing and also something called the hydrolyze conversion. It's a process by which the light and the spirit body structure would perpetually self-produce living conscious light radiation in order to replenish the quantum of the body and grow the eternal life cells in the body. So that means that the cells would not really die. They would actually get transformed in a way. So to kind of put it simple, our bodies, through something called the celestial breathing, so this organic way where through the breath we would create sparks that would later kind of they would fly to the source and they would come back as a backflow return, and this way we would kind of receive 144 elementals in our bodies. This way we were able to sustain our anatomies and we would get all the kind of vitamins we would need at the moment. Our bodies would actually consciously know what kind of atoms we should manufacture. And when it comes to the hydrolyze conversion, there's something you should know about the water, that the H2O is not the living light eternal water, but it's actually the dead water. Our waters have been mutated on this planet. There's a reason for that, because actually water is like the, let's say, the atomic base of all of the other elementals. Just as an interesting fact, the chemical compounds creating the living water, which is called the hydrolyze, are the H2, so two hydrogens, O2, two oxygens, and He3, so 3 heliums. H2, O2, He3. That was the original formula for the living water. And right now, actually, as we are connecting with the internal creation, the Yati planes, we are actually getting upgraded to even further than hydrolyze. We are getting upgraded to something called the tryptolyze, which is the hydrolyze, but on the internal creation level. So when we think about the hydrolyze, the way I would always sense it when I was doing different projections is it's kind of like it's water, but the water that has less density. So like let's say if you are washing your hair with the normal water, the water would stay and then you need to kind of like dry your hair so the water could vaporize. Well, the hydrolyze would never actually stay on my hair. When I was doing different projections, it was kind of getting vaporized very quickly in a certain way, and it didn't feel so wet. But you could feel that you're in some kind of a water, but it had a much lighter and a little bit more vapor structure. While the tryptolase, I would say that it's a certain type of a liquid, but it's definitely not similar to water. It's kind of like as if you could be standing on it, you could be under it, you could be also floating. It's changing the way it's behaving very easily. It's basically not holding as much resistance as the physical water. So I would recommend everybody to try taking the journey to the waters of Ileisa, because basically this could be treated as an organic bath in the tryptolase waters, which regenerates your body from the molecular and actually subatomic levels. When it comes to physical related stuff, first of all, when you're taking a bath, you can always do the same procedure of freezing, melting, and vaporizing any kind of toxins from the water. And I would recommend a lot the salt baths with the baked soda and some etheric oils. They can really do a lot of things, and they actually often, especially when you're doing salt baths, they would be getting out any kind of toxins from the body. So they work really good. They are really great. Maybe that's something physical, but it's also affecting you on an energetic spectrum as well. I've been seeing a lot of black stuff coming out of my body whenever I was doing this. So it's a nice way to also purify yourself in a physical way. And you can always kind of, when you're taking a bath especially, or even when you're having a shower, just kind of imagine that you're breathing in the water, the living water molecules to your body, and then just exhaling it throughout your whole structure. And this way you're kind of inhaling a certain substance that can help you regenerate your cells. Okay, let me see if there is anything else I wanted to mention here. Okay, so I think I've got pretty much everything covered up. Perhaps next time I'm going to touch the base on the translation duct system, because it's also related to the atom manufacturing. And when we think about, okay, how, because there's just like this, a lot of teaching saying like thoughts are things, and you might think, okay, if I think something, why doesn't turn into matter instantly? Like I'm gonna think about a butterfly, why I don't literally have a butterfly flying around me. So in order to understand this, we've got something called the translation duct system, and this one is actually it's actually a set of organs that are corresponding to our physical body organs, and they would, in the past, without any mutations, they would be translating all of our thoughts and emotions into matter. Because actually, all of these things that we call like emotions, thoughts, they correspond to certain types of matter. For example, feeling is plasma. Emotion is endoplasm. And thought is thermoplasm. So these are all different states of matter. First, we've got the feeling, which is plasma. When it becomes emotion, it becomes something called the endoplasm. Then the thought is the thermoplasm. And these different areas of the translation duct system, they help us translate this specific stuff. And now, when we got these distortions in the translation duct system, that's when the real crazy things start to occur. Because sometimes our thoughts may not be in harmony with our emotions, and that's where it's coming from. I've got a question here. How harmful is chlorine in the water? Yeah, so it's quite harmful. Chlorine, and in USA they are also putting fluoride into the water. All of these chemicals have been put into our waters in order to poison us from the inside out. Normally, if all of the atoms would be never twisted, we wouldn't have such issue, because actually they wouldn't do any harm to us. But right now, with all of these mutations that have taken place, like the hydrogen actually should have protons and neutrons together, but it has only protons. That's quite of a mutation. So basically, it's a certain agenda. Maybe I won't be getting too much into that because it's easy to figure it out. Actually, once you poison the water, and I think our bodies are made at least like 80% from water, you basically start to control the water molecules. So if you affect the water molecules, you start to affect the liquid. So you affect the blood, the water that is in the tissues, and the water molecules communicate with each other. So if they get into panic, if they get mad, upset, yeah, there starts to be a problem. So sometimes when we feel very chaotic within ourselves, it's often our water molecules that are in the state of panic. 3D devices like laptop, phone. There's been I've been once seeing this video where they were showing if you say to the glass of water, I love you, it's gonna have like a beautiful fractal structure. But if you just put the water actually like next to the phone, there starts to be this really nasty, yucky stuff. It stops having this beautiful fractal structure. So the water knows, the water feels, and the water knows how to behave, and it kind of is aware of certain things. And the water also feels. So if you want to clear your water, ask it for permission first, and you should get a feeling whether it's a yes or no. Usually it's a yes, because it really wants to get healed. So it can also help you. So I think that I'm going to kind of wrap up with that. Here's been a couple of information on the Krystic lifestyle. If there will be any other information showing up, especially as more and more people will watch it, when it will appear on Rumble and on my YouTube channel, I'm open for any kind of questions. We can also do like a part 2 of the Krystic lifestyle, but I will kind of also leave it to my audience. And just a quick message when it comes to the duplicate emails. Thank you for reminding me, guys. I will just kind of say it if you're not reading the chat. If you are receiving duplicate emails about the shows, it's not because there are too many being sent, but it's basically a platform issue. So Gus and the production is working on resolving this situation. So as I said, there are many things happening with the AI these days, so nothing can surprise me anymore. So I wish you all a wonderful start of the week, and I'm going to see you next Monday. Take care.